I don't believe in large teams in general. Keep your team as small as possible, as long as possible. Hire a lot of designers.
And if you are designing a physical product and then at some point there's the decision of, okay, is that final now? Or are we giving that into production? Yeah, I mean, you can't reverse it, right?
You have to learn to live with your demons, But at the end of the day, you're a designer. And your job is to identify and solve problem.
And then reality hits. And then a company with 1,200 people working on a very promising mission and product, they don't make it.
Everything was calculated from the very beginning.
Your career started in industrial design, then you moved to healthcare.
Yeah.
Then Infarm, I think it was vertical farming, and now you're at Dryad, working on products that help to prevent and detect wildfires. Was that a conscious choice to make that switch from physical products to healthcare and then to something more in the areas of sustainability, or did it just feel right back then?
Everything was calculated from the very beginning. I knew that it would bring me to that.
Part of a big plan.
It was all part of. Finally,
I'm here.
Finally,
waiting for
we
this
meet.
moment.
No, I mean there's a mix of everything. It's really a mix of luck and opportunities and self, decision and drive. I would say. I understood. Let's say, how to say. The way I started, I understood very quickly that I was interested in working for products which were more, let's say, usability oriented. That was the kind of product which interested me more. And then, it was the opportunity for me at the time to finish my studies, a long time ago now, but to finish my studies, not in France, not in cozy, France, but go to the other side of the world and do it there, like in China, in a country like you have no idea of, and you don't know the culture, the language, and so on, and go learn to design for this foreign culture, basically, and to understand how to design for a different culture. And this made me understand the value of user-centric, of user-centricity. At some point, so actually I really started more in consumer product, and then understood very quickly that that was not where I was feeling that I had the most impact on the design. That's made me move to then healthcare. And within healthcare, then it was I had again opportunity to, they offered me the opportunity to be trained as a human factor engineer. So to validate, to build all the protocols for usability testings, to validate that, you're not going to kill someone with the product you just designed, basically.
It's a very, very important point. Let me dive in here. So it was... So you back then also when you were in the medical industry, you were still working on physical product, and then there was the switch, the human factors engineering kind of thing.
I mean, yes, I had, and no opportunity, no chance. I had the chance to be in, or I took the chance that my boss at the time and mentor was basically had the mindset that, okay, you are a designer with a specialty in hardware development was my specialty, but at the end of the day you're a designer, and your job is to identify and solve an identified problem, and the way you solve it doesn't have to be hardware. It could be software, it could be service, it could be but your role is to understand the mechanic on how, and the process on how to solve that problem with these different types of angles. So very quickly I was pushed to not think only in terms of hardware, but think in terms of software, think in terms of ecosystem. And that was, that's how it started there. And then the human factor engineering came on top to also validate the hardware, the software, and so on. But for usability and whatnot. So that was kind of the focus. And so I was lucky to be. So it was an American agency who had the headquarters was in Minneapolis, but they had a branch in London and in Shanghai. And the goal of this company was to identify innovation opportunities in healthcare for healthcare professional, and this one specifically in China. So I spent a lot of time in surgery rooms, hospitals, and so on, and trying to understand general workflows around it, and then to see, okay, where are the innovation, where are the optimization, where are the improvement opportunities and business opportunities. And usually that was then working for companies like, Johnson & Johnson, Medtronic, and larger conglomerate. But from this, the opportunity could be, if basically, it could be a product like a surgical tool, but that could be also an app supporting the patients. That could be a new types of service, which is englobing everything. And basically that gives you that kind of a open-mindedness to.
I think that's a really interesting turn your career took there, because I've been talking to a couple of industrial designers in my role or in previous roles that I had, and I came across a couple of them who were trying to go into the UX industry, and how you're explaining it does make a lot of sense, right? To go from, or to see it as having the ability to solve a problem, not only from a physical side or from a physical angle, but also softwares and ecosystems. Would you say this is your experience or coming from industrial design and then being able or being fostered to look at it from a broader angle is still helping you also today at companies like Dryad to understand or to see problems as a connected system of experiences, of services and stuff like that?
Yeah. I think coming from industrial design forces you to how to say, it's gonna sound stupid, but basically, you as an industrial designer, you have to think in 3D. You have to understand that a product sits within a specific context. So, and to understand that within the same product, it's going to be through different types of users, different types of if you take the example of a surgery tool, is the user the surgeon, the person cleaning the tool, the nurse giving the tool around? Is the customer is in the end the hospital? What kind of ROI around, and how is that tool moving, and so on? It gave me, and maybe that was also because it was, let's say, product within a specific field, in that case of healthcare, where it's really like part of a flow there, that it really helped to broaden the spectrum. I think also when I look compared to digital design that I know, practice every day and all that, I think that industrial design, or like thinking of a hardware, is less, at the same time it's less constrained and more constrained. So let me for me to explain. Less constrained in the sense that, more constrained in the sense that, well, at some point you have to give a go for a product to open like an injection mold, which gonna cost like, I don't know, like $250,000 US.
To go into production.
Yes, you have like that hard break.
It's freeze now.
And at some point, you have this constrained timed chaos of the product, of the product, like of the design process and ideation and so on, that you have to then refine to converge toward that solution that you have to commit.
Yep.
And I think that the fact that it brings, like, you have that moment of commitment that, okay, this is what we're going to do. And there's not going to be any other like iteration and et cetera, forces you to make strong decisions at some point, because you know that you will have to assume it, and you're gonna have I don't know, like few tons of that product sitting somewhere in a warehouse. While on software, and saying it's obvious, but the way software is built and the way digital product design evolve is to embrace that approach that, well, software is always evolving, and we can always improve it, we can always change it, we can always all of that. So the work and the focus is going more toward the, I don't know if it's really English, but productivization, like to productize the, like basically the work,
to make the work itself more efficient,
like more efficient. And the idea is that it's more efficient. It's more like, I see that the work of digital designers moved very much into, it productified itself. Everything is very, you got, design systems, and the whole discussion is about how to make it more efficient in applying patterns across different products, which is, it's interesting, but it has also some flaws, I would say. While, industrial design, basically a product is its own small universe. It wouldn't sit within a brand. You still have like product language. You still have like, like understanding the CMPF and all of that of the company. And so you have like this family, and you have also like links of, affordance that you need to find across product. But I feel that it's less, on the work itself, it's less constraints. I feel less than putting, just elements together. While the work of digital design might be that. So I would say industrial design forced me to think a bit broader in terms of products. And then then what I see with product design.
I'm wondering, did it also affect the way or affect your abilities to make decisions? Because I imagine if you are designing a physical product and then at some point there's the decision of, okay, is that final now? Or are we giving that into production and potentially buy machines or produce this thing? And 2 weeks later, everything is, or I don't know, half a year later, everything is produced. And then we feel like, okay, we should have done it differently. You can't reverse it, right? So making those decisions, also with the potential to really running into a false one, was it easier for you then working in like digital products to make those decisions and just...
Yes, you have to learn to live with your demons, that's it. If it was easier, in a way, yes, it was easier, like moving more closer to the side of digital design. I have to say that I appreciate that. But I see also, I'm trying to be wary as well of falling into this idea of, and especially in a startup context where, everything is pressure, like time is pressure, and you have to, deliver heavily now. And now the cost of bringing features into the product, like reduced immensely. I'm trying to, keep a certain level of constraint in the way that I will develop the product, that there is a certain level of commitment there. But no, of course, I appreciate a lot the idea that, all right, let's break that down. Let's, integrate it, see how it works. Then we grow on it. And some things that you cannot really do there. In hardware. And it's not like, though, this being said, of course, in product design, it's not like I can arrive and, technically, yes, but I cannot say, all right, let's change everything now. Like, nothing matters, just scrap everything we start. No, because you built, you build system, you built like, you cannot break it all.
That's really interesting. This kind of, the way that also shaped the design and digital design capabilities in a way. After your time as industrial designer, then you moved into more the digital side of things. at some point you worked for Infarm, and you grew the team there. Correct me if I'm wrong. From 2 to roughly 12 people. So there was a lot of
more or less with the interns.
Yeah, with ups and downs. we know how it is. People come and people go. So scaling a team, and I also know that from my experience, is sometimes tough, and it needs a lot of time and efforts. How did you know back then, okay, now it's time, we need someone new? So now it's the right time to hire someone new and not solve this productivity problem that we now have, or shipping problem, by making things more efficient, or use different tools, or something like that. So was it the pressure that you felt? Was it proactively looking into the future, or how did you approach this hiring?
So yeah, with Infarm, just to give a bit more context, the goal of the company was to feed the world locally.
Yeah.
So that was like the big vision. And to go back, like when I joined them, there were less than 50 people. So they were still like at seed level.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 years later, we were about like 1,200 across, I think basically we were in 10 countries. We were not implemented like at the offices in 10 countries, but about 10 countries, 50 cities, and so on. So it grew it was
crazy,
a good example in all of its ways of what was hyperscale, or those hyperscale companies. And so when I joined them, they were like one freelance designer at the time and one intern that they had, who joined and stayed also. And so the way they hired me was actually through the work that after living in China for 8 years, wanted to move to Europe with my partner. We wanted to go to France. She's French as well. I wanted to look around, have a bit of a
proximity,
but yeah. And so they were interested. So I came in contact with the founders, and they were interested by the work that I was doing in healthcare in terms of workflow optimization. For the time, it was like for hospitals, but also on surgeries, and studying workflows, and then identifying opportunities. And they wanted to transfer that basically on how you operate a farm, because the way you operate a farm, I like to say, is like a patient.
Yeah.
It's basically, your goal was to open it, do what you have to do inside as quickly as possible. The cleanest way as possible, and you close it as quickly as possible.
That's an interesting analogy. So, I like that.
Roughly.
Yeah.
All right?
Plus minus.
Don't try that at home. But no. But the idea was then to understand, okay, like how can we optimize that operation there and transfer it then to their system, which were like the vision at the time they were just starting to implement it, was to have it was looking like kind of a big fridges placed in supermarket, where the herbs and leafy greens were planted, harvested, cleaned, and sold in the same place. So we were basically not needed. I mean, I think 90% of the herbs are coming from today's through Israel or North Africa, and so for European market. And the idea was that no, everything happens within the store, so it's hyper fresh and etc. etc. But they had like a lot of efficiencies issues, and they didn't know how to build something to scale. So my role was literally to build a operation and build the tools around it, so it could then
be an efficient business. Okay.
Yeah. So that's for the context. So then when I joined them, then it was the choice for growing the team has been a mix of like tactical decisions and as well like following the business needs for it. So tactical decisions in the sense that first, the issues that they had were mostly like on what very hardware related. So it was let's build a team to be able to fix that first. So I was working with mostly like the one which were already there. Then, so how to standardize as much as possible their operation was then bringing the software side of it. They had no designers at the beginning, so it was only engineers. The software was a bit complicated, let's say, to use. There was a lot of still manual work and so on. So then bringing the team to actually start to build that. So then that brought with the UX team. The business need and the business growth after pushed a lot of the decisions on the verticals. Basically, then after, like, actually there was no product manager at all for the first like 2 years when I was there. Then we brought like product management capabilities. We started to rethink in terms of like verticals and so on. But the goal was, as you had to move very quickly, basically you had to hire a designer for every verticals. If not, it was not possible. And so it was kind of like pulling for that. And so I was trying to, at the same time, hire for the right needs of the product. So for example, starting with the hardware, then the software, then we brought this, I created this, I called it like operational UX. So it was a transversal team of strategy designer, non-designers as well, that like former operation people who wanted to improve the system, to integrate it within the team. And they were more iterating on the business model and operational model for it to grow. So basically, that was kind of this staggered growth that we had.
So it was a mix of, okay, we will be needing those kind of skills, and okay, we need it now and we need it fast, because we're not getting stuff done that we actually want to get done right now.
Exactly, and you have the pressure of the hyperscale behind, which is that we just need to deliver on that. And as it was mixing this hardware side of it, you know, you and this thing that whatever you do, you know, you have to commit to it. You have to pull have the resources to basically do that, and that's there's some stuff that you cannot compress. So yes, we had to.
What's your thoughts on? Because back then there were a couple of, or many companies that went through like some kind of hyperscale phase.
Yeah.
There was a lot of money around on the markets that was invested, and also in product design. What's your thoughts on scaling a team so fast? Do you think it is the right thing to do if I want to build a great product, or is that like really just needed because of the financials that need to be met, or the set of features that need to be shipped?
It's a hard question to tell. Like, maybe one thing is like design was still like, I kept it the smallest of the teams, for the amount of like product we were handling and so on. I think I will still, you know, now with the experience behind, I think I would have also kept it, even if I could, also smaller there.
Why?
Because at some point, like, sometimes the lack of proper planning. Oh God, I will regret what I'm saying.
We can we revise
Let me try
everything
that. The sometimes maybe the lack of planning that the growth pressure bring should not justify that. Okay, we have to get someone else because we're incapable of, you know, staggering some developments. And I think that we could, not by much, to be honest, because we're like quite tight, definitely.
Yep.
But like one of the biggest challenge on that hyper growth has been moving like from this like small team of people to, and now surprise, you are like 200 people in R&D, and communication becomes like a huge constraint, or like a huge challenges, and you understand that 5 teams are doing the same thing and so on. How do you unify all of that? Is I think like the biggest, it's like what basically slug or like make the whole efficiency, as it like just breaks the whole efficiency actually. And then breaking the efficiency, you can go into the loop of, okay, let's just throw more people at it, which is like basically the worst thing.
And then you're just in like some kind of
I would say like keep your team as small as possible, as long as possible. Hire a lot of designers still. No, but I think that this is like only scale when this is like obviously like the only next step possible.
Do you think it's I mean, it's not beneficial for the efficiency. I totally understand that. Do you think it makes like better products if you would compare the approach of, okay, we are trying to keep it as small as possible, the friction as low as possible, communication as easy as possible, to deliver a great product, versus we're just trying to get as much brain power on board, because many smart people make smarter products than just a few smart people.
I don't believe in large teams in general. Like over, I mean, it depends obviously it depends on the context, product, I guess, it depends on the context, it depends on all of that. But I think you can achieve so much with lean, lean but strong expertise in their field. And for me, that's why, like, for example, on the recruitment of those 12 people, I was I was recruiting them and spending a lot of my time actually going through
CVs
it and
everything.
selecting and CVs and portfolios and all of that. Because for me, it was like, okay, if we're going to grow, like, we need to make sure that we get, what I would see like as the right people, the right cultural fits as well for all of that. And it worked out. Like, I think within the 6 years of all the people that we recruited, I think 1 or 2 left because of like they moved or stuff like that.
Which is quite good for a company that is like in a very...
For this context, I was happy about this. Like, there's not many things that I'm happy about, but this one, I was happy about definitely the quality of the team that I had at the time. And a lot of them now like moved to head of positions and stuff like that. So that was great.
That's cool. And I think especially during those times there was a lot of fluctuation because there was lots of demand as well, at other companies. So I think that's like a really positive sign. And I totally agree with you in terms of building, because I think today it's getting even easier to be productive with lesser people. But
also at the time, it's like there was not many companies in Berlin doing, kind of tech for good type of companies. It's like, okay, can you, you can work in a company doing, let me try not to put half of Berlin on my back. But basically, you had very, very little amount of companies where it's like, okay, well, we're going to try to save the world, or like to solve like one of the big, humanity or climate issues. And this one was about food and so on. So like the vision was driving a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, and it's also as a service less interchangeable. There's lots of companies out there that maybe do similar stuff in the way they build their product. This is something that I did not hear of somewhere else. We have that in medtech. That's my experience also very often, that people really, like to go there because they really think they can do tech for good, which is also the case. And yeah, totally understand that. If you're looking into diving deeper into your view, you also went through being an individual contributor into leading the team, or growing the team, and then ultimately ending up leading it. What was the hardest part for you there? Like, what was the hardest thing or your hardest learning that you had going from someone who's designing, working on things himself, and then doing such a phase, being overwhelmed by having to scan portfolios, onboarding people, managing people, coaching people?
It came gradually, because already in my previous job, I was I joined them as a junior. I ended up as the design manager for the agency. But it was always like, okay, you manage people, but you do the work as well. And Infarm obviously took like several years, and it was a lot of also like this kind of mix where I was basically, focusing on kind of the high risk project and product and so on, and to focus on that. And then gradually, at some point when the switch had to be made, that okay, that's it, now my role has to be just coaching and enabling the team. I think that it was the hardest was when I felt that the feedback that I was bringing to the team was less and less grounded in operation, or was less and less actionable in a way. And at some point I felt like sometime, I was providing feedback which were like, I don't know if it were like too generic, I would say, but something like, okay, great, but that's not helping me to move forward for design. And that was the worst thing, And so for me, that was that, until I really understood that no, your job is different now. That my job is to enable, actually moving from actually like doing the work to, and also that was the way like the company was then going toward for their leadership, that we were more enabling the team to achieve their goal.
So having a lesser like direct impact.
I had less of a direct impact on the product itself, but more on how the team was able to execute on the work. There was that. So then I shifted to that, and making sure that the team had the right way to grow, and that I was enabling the project to move as fast as possible and to deliver and so on. But still, I was feeling that it was not exactly where I was aligned. And so that's also why after, at some point, I also moved into even more like, let's say, more strategic type of project. And one of them that I really enjoyed was for me to move more toward the business side of things, and working with our business strategy to rethink what would be a profitable operation or profitable model for our in-store, what we call the in-store. So what I was just describing with the farm in the stores there, like what was the profitable way of operating that. And this was very, there I could, also, I was leading the team, but also then I could find still like
having an angle to
having another angle to be able to have immediate
somewhere.
impact. And that I was working more with that transversal like strategic team, and then I was able to still have that. And we found ways to make it profitable, but that was another.
That's
problem.
actually a very, very interesting topic, because if we look at how, Infarm as a company doesn't exist anymore.
No, it does not exist anymore.
Because they face business realities in a way. It's like they
hard.
That's like the hard business realities in a way.
It's fine. It's
that's
basically the Ukraine. One of the main reason was at some point, like the Ukraine war started, the whole energy prices like skyrocketed. So surprisingly, growing plants under UV lights was not like a hot topic, I'd say, anymore. And then beside that, Infarm made strategic decisions which were like definitely, like could be revised, let's say. But yeah,
this I think that's interesting, because we're looking at things from you've been working there as a designer, working on the hardware product itself, working on the software side of things. You were involved into the strategic side of things as well. There's so many things where you have impact, and from what you told me, and also from what I read and saw, there's an interesting product. There is a product market fit. There is a solution that solves problems. And then reality hits. And then a company with 1,200 people working on a very promising mission and product, they don't make it. Is there like, what taught that you, like, what did you learn from it from a design perspective, having the situation of a great team working on great products, and then suddenly there's just the financial situation from where you can't really, that you don't have in your own hands to a certain degree, and everything just evaporates, although you did a good job. Like,
we did what we could.
Yeah, I imagine, like, but I imagine it's super frustrating, and
yes, I mean, obviously it's frustrating, but I mean, at some point it's like kind of the I think it's about reality, coming back at it. Like, I mean, look at it from a objective standpoint. At the end of the day, you're growing like salads and leafy greens and herbs. We're not doing like GPU chipsets. So I think that, and it was the case in the entire vertical farming industry, because I think I know that none of the competitor that we had at the time, like direct competitor, like Bori and so on, still exist. Everybody and there's been like this massive influx of money into that industry, which just pushed toward like, okay, we're going to like revolutionize and create these great systems, forgetting that at the end of the day, you're talking about agriculture. You're literally growing like basil on the shelf. So you can update it. You can improve it as much as you could at some point. There's that reality, and there was this dichotomy between the investment, like expected, and what the business can actually generate. And I think that this what brought at some points that, and I think this is a challenge with any startup scaling there, that you have to make choices for sustaining your growth versus the core value, like sustaining the core USP, your customer needs behind. And I think that this is one thing that at Infarm happened, is like the core differentiator that we had at the beginning was this in-store model, those farms in the supermarket, because this was like very, different from what you had around. The experience was there, the product was there, like and it was different from any other companies. But at the same time, this model could not sustain the amount of investment that we had. We had then to scale. We had to create these. So we created these massive systems, which were basically, we repurposed like warehousing columns, like storage column, and we towers, sorry, and we repurposed them into like huge, fully automated vertical farms. But okay, it's great for scaling. But at the end of the day, for the person buying, their herbs and so on, like basically, I mean, because we were not able to have the same packaging, we were not able to have like something. For the in-store farm, we developed this paper packaging, which made something like also pretty unique from a product standpoint. But at the end of the day, with like this larger system, yes, you improve all your unit economics. But at the end of the day, for the person actually buying, it's a sub-product. It's not even cheaper.
Yeah.
The only thing you had then to say, to bring was that, it's more
the story.
It's more sustainable, and which is true. You know, like the way how the much less energy, much less water, much less. Yeah. But that's it.
Yep.
And I think that's losing customer USP and customer value during the scale is something that I could see quite often, and that at the end, when you figure that you're working for yourself and you're working to sustain your own growth, that should raise like all the crazy red flags that you will see.
So you like getting lost in that vision.
Yes.
And then just like forgetting, like zoom out, like what is actually the problem and the value that we're giving to the person that needs to finance it, which is the end user buying a tomato.
Yeah. Exactly.
Did that make you more skeptical towards like, I mean, if I'm thinking of Dryad, for example, I mean, you joined them. Did that make you, in hindsight, more skeptical towards, is there like a real use case that can also finance and sustain a business?
Yeah.
And not something that is, I don't want to say it's built on hype, but...
First of all, it made me much more like business centric
in
the way that I mean the amount of learning I got from living through that phase in that company to now is something like invaluable for me, invaluable for me. So I will really thank them for that. But that made me much more
aware of the business
aware of the business side and the reality of it, and that you cannot design something just for the pleasure of designing it. And for me, joining Dryad was that I believe on the product itself, but then it has to have like a business grounding.
I think that's also one of the reasons, like actually many smaller companies fail. Like you do have a vision and you're passionate about it, and you're passionate about the product, and you're working on it, and then at some point you recognize, I love it because I'm working on it, but is there actually someone who has is there a product market fit? Like, is there someone who potentially buys it or pays for it or
So after Infarm, I did consulting for so I needed some time after those 6 years of hyper growth, to
breathe and rearrange
and see where am I, what do I want to do, and so on. So I did quite a bit of consulting. I joined as an expert so HEC Incubator. HEC is it's a business school in France, and so I joined there. So they have sets of experts to support the startups joining their incubator, but also during the incubation phase to also provide advices and so on. So I joined them, and I could definitely see patterns across those and things that I would find through Infarm on not thinking about scale and the impact of scale on their work and on their product. People pitching only about the vision, forgetting completely about the the customer centricity of their product. Seeing startups with a consistent pattern that I will see is very unrealistic business projections. No, you will not be profitable after 1 year. That's not. That's
you wish.
You wish. Your TAM is not your SAM. That does not work really like that. and also, I mean, now less and less with AI and the capabilities that it brings, but a lot of founder sticking on an idea which is great on paper but incapable of like proving it as quickly as possible. Being very good at explaining it, at showing you the vision and so on, but like, okay, now how do you bring it to life to have a proof of concept of your value? And this see it like less, because the accessibility of building the product becomes like much faster and cheaper and so on. But this is something which I've been seeing like consistently.
That's interesting that not only for smaller companies that are just starting right now, but also like for a big organization, those kind of blind spots, if you're gonna call it that way, still exist and can also carry on through like a big organization. Really interesting to see. Maybe let's jump into your current position. You're currently at Dryad or Dryad Networks. Let's talk about that. Because we didn't dive into it before. What does Dryad do? Like for the people that don't know this company,
and I'm sure there are many.
Potentially. But what problem do you solve, and how do you do it?
Yeah. So the problem we solve is wildfires. So we developed a system, so a network and a network system and a sensor, which is capable of detecting wildfire only minutes after its ignition. Usually, traditional systems like cameras and satellite and even like enhanced with AI are only or mainly visual based. They will detect fire after like more than an hour actually from the moment it actually started because it will detect it when there starts to be actual like open flames, and it will generate like a strong plume of smoke, and this is what you detect. Some cameras will have like a thermal signature and so on, but still you need to have like a pretty large fire for that. The added value for us is that we have cheap sensors that we will deploy as a mesh in the forest, and they could detect at smoldering phase. So smoldering is really like the very, very beginning of the fire. There's no flames really, but there is like a gas change happening. And what we detect is that gas change. And what we do is, so every system have like an edge, machine learning, AI enabled algorithm that we train on. Basically, we burn a lot
of things.
No,
we're interesting job.
Exactly, just a chair.
CFO, chief fire officer.
Yes, the chief fire officer. No, but we burn, we collect vegetations, and we collect branches, and fuel all across the globe that we will then burn and train our model to recognize if this is a fire or not, and from which types of forest and so on, which helps us to also distinguish between a barbecue, a badly tuned diesel truck, and an actual fire starting. So each sensor then is doing this. So it's working with this like extremely early like wildfire detection, but it's also then giving temperature, humidity, air pressure, carbon monoxide, PM 2.5 values that we will be reading, and all of these then allows. So we have customers a lot of our customers are actually going through like fire agencies, and they help fire agencies and wildfire analysts to have a very high definition map of sites that we are protecting. Usually fire risk maps that you will get from agencies and so on have I think some of the smallest are like, 8 kilometer by 8 kilometer in, like they will say, okay, this 8 kilometer by 8 kilometer has a high fire risk today.
Yeah.
The problem is a lot of the businesses that we're working with, like national parks and so on, then that gives them no real definition of, okay, so that means they need to close their entire park.
Okay, yeah.
For us, for example, with our systems, we can give them a much more like fine view of their site and saying that, okay, actually this area is a high fire risk. Yeah. This area, no. So then, what they use that to make decisions on can they keep their business open or not, and so on. We work with public clients with public forest and state parks and so on, but also we work with a lot of private customers, and we do a lot of asset protection. So railways, network, linear railways, telecommunication, pipeline, and so on, where we would then basically protect the assets. For them, the interest is, first of all, to understand if they create a fire and to extinguish it as quickly as possible. I think like 2 years ago was PG&E had in Canada, they had a lawsuit because one of their installations started a fire, which ended up in 10 billion in lawsuit for them. So our goal is then, they can...
To avoid that, basically. Yeah.
to avoid that. But also in terms of liability, to say, did the fire came from them or not, and so on. So we have different use case so that we are catering. And
this is then also like how Dryad basically finances itself, because there's like various... user groups, customer groups that say, well, okay, in a way, I have something in my forest or in that forest that needs to be protected, or where I want to know if there's a fire. A
lot of customers also for us are, the forest is the asset, like state park. The forest is the asset. We work with like timber industry as well, where the goal, the wood is the asset, so they want to protect that, obviously. So that would be our core customers. And now we have customers in Europe, in the US, Canada, Thailand, and Australia.
So globally.
So now we are globally there.
If you're you're leading design there. From your point of view, what do you work on the most from a design perspective?
Clarifying things. This is what I actually work on the most. As you say, it's an ecosystem. With very different types of customers, very different types of views, very different types of stakeholders across the journey. From, you got your customer in the regional, like, let's say, I will take an example of a state forest. Your customer is not the state forest, or the municipality. It might be like the regional direction of the country. The people who will actually use or monitor might be part of them, but that might be also the fire agency locally. The people installing will be a recruited, team of installers, and so on. So you have to kind of map all of that across and basically try to understand how to cater those, and then you have to think you've got different phases of deployment. And the way we work usually with our customers, we have a first phase of testing. Basically they want to have a proof. Is, are they putting the money in the right...
Does it work?
Does it actually work? So usually we start with like a smaller pilot with them, with like a few hundred, like 100 of sensors deployed in some areas. They will test that, and then if they're satisfied, and if they we are able to prove on the ROI of our product for them, that we're bringing them value, then they will expand to larger areas. And so for me, I will then spend a lot of time like trying to understand really like what are the needs of each of those phases for each of those users to prove basically and go on the next step, and then to build the software for that. And the
so it's
platform.
It's a customized software per
No,
use case?
it has to fit.
Okay.
It has to fit for everything. But we have to find like what are the right decisions that we have to make for that.
Yeah.
And one thing is, so the software has different parts, like one being the planning for the like where will you place actually your sensors, and then you got all the monitoring part, and monitoring and alerting. And the monitoring, basically we build that platform, but it's working more as the goal of this section of the platform is more to demonstrate the value of the product, because usually our customers will use the standalone platform for a while, like for testing, so they don't have to integrate our system and to do like all the security audit and so on. And then they will move through our API, which is a product in itself. So I have to think also like the platform needs to be thought through as a demonstrating the capabilities of our system. Okay. Because this is one of the challenge, which is that at the end of the day, you do a fire alarm. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But there's no fire. If there's fires and you detect it, great. But for a lot of customers, in the end, there is no. How do you actually demonstrate that your product work, the value that it has, and so on? So. And to build the trust through that. So a lot of the work that I'm doing now is taking all the data that we are getting from our sensors and how do we bring it back to our customers in a way that this tool is not only a fire alarm, but is it's a operational tool for them.
So also like showing information in a way that people understand what it actually means.
What we do and what are the capabilities of the product that we have now is that then they can make strategic decisions on their the area that they are protecting based on this high definition data that we are providing. So they can see what areas will they open or close, which area do they need to make like prescribed. So usually when you go to forest and you have to protect it, you do like a prescribed burn. So you actually burn sections of the forest, which then helps to actually protect and avoid like big spreading. But with this, you can see at the level of details where are really like the risk areas of the of my forest and how it is as on the day to day and how it evolves and so on. So we are moving we are currently releasing features on to that direction.
So it's basically not only
it's not a fire alarm.
A fire alarm based on data, but it's much more evolving towards like how do I properly handle and protect my forest or asset or.
And as you say, like the company name is Dryad Networks. And it's like the network part is like there is actually two products. I see that as two products. You have the sensor, which is like the vertical of Wildfire. But we have then this. So we created this. It's a LoRaWAN based network, which could be, so we developed kind of a specific mesh system which allows really like to relay on kilometers and tens of kilometers of like basically creating that building that network there. And so it could accept also other sensors and so other types of use cases as well.
Okay, I see. That's okay. That's interesting to get a.
But for us, like as the CEO says, like for us, for now, our killer app is the Wildfire aspect, but we are working on other verticals as well to expand from this.
You've learned to think into in ecosystems quite early, and now you're basically in a role where this is like super helpful, because that's exactly what Dryad is, an ecosystem. What would be interesting for me to know is like, what's the weak spot or the most fragile spot if you look at such an ecosystem or complex solution consisting of hardware, software, an algorithm as well. Yeah.
The most difficult, I feel, is the expectation gap. And how do you bridge the expectation gap that your users or customers will have of your product and versus how it actually works, and how you intend them to use it. One example for me being that, yes, it's a small sensor and it detects fire.
Yeah.
Then some customers will think and ask us like, "What? Okay, good, we had our sensor there, but why didn't it detect like this actual fire which was like 5 kilometers away?" Or I just lighted up my lighter in front of the sensor. It did not work. Why? I mean, these are stupid examples, but they keep basically coming back, and you're like, okay, well, I'm explaining, I'm making sure that I'm nudging the way that I visualize, the way that I build the software to build that understanding.
Yeah.
Also, one of the challenge that I have, that we have, is you're not always it's a big ecosystem, but you're not always, then your users are not always interested in your product.
Yeah.
They are not always experts in the field as well. So you have to translate complex constraints then and to make it as intuitive as possible. So not all of our users who are doing planning our sensors are wildfire experts. Are the people who are deploying the sensors in the forest, they are not telecommunication or LoRaWAN or RF experts as well. But it requires a certain level of technicity and also as it's a deep tech company and it's a complicated things to put together. The product still needs to be at a certain to improve, I would say. So you have to design is here also to smooth the edges and make sure that the question that I ask myself every day is what could go wrong at each and every step, and then thinking, okay, now how do we avoid make sure that it goes into this is coming from the human factor engineering side, which I would do task analysis of everything, and then thinking what could go wrong and building then the hazard kind of the hazard mode of everything, and thinking, okay, what could be the mitigation, how does that influence the design, etc., etc., etc.
That's because when I asked the question, I was expecting something internal prioritization, something like that, but I really like the thought of, well, the more complex the product, the easier for the user that does not have those insights and hasn't been working on the product for years or months or ages, he's gonna assume things. Especially if it's a product that he's not used to. I mean, if I'm ordering something online, I can expect some kind of card, I can expect some kind of checkout, and whatnot. Or if I'm using a banking fintech app, there's a login, there's gonna be some kind of balance, there's X, Y, Z, and that's. I think it's really interesting that it makes it hard to keep the user at the center and also his level of understanding.
Especially when you bring a product that they don't know, they will. I mean, I would also everyone does that. It's natural. You are always, and the human is always looking for existing patterns and so on. So. That's what they will do. It's if you bring a device and saying it's detecting fire, in your mind it's working like the smoke detector in your home, and then they will project their mental model of it onto the entire journey that they're supposed to go through.
Yeah.
Not thinking that, it's not understanding, but it's your job is then to make it clear and guide them
works differently
without being like overly constrained on everything. It's and to explain how it works and to
like that's how you expect it, that's how it works, but this is also how it is intended to work.
Exactly.
Like to have that
and it's
corrective.
It's like for Infarm, for example, when we had those farms in the supermarkets and you could see the plant growing there.
Yeah.
Actually, very few people at the beginning understood that the plants were actually growing in there.
That's actually something that I experienced myself not long ago, because I visited actually like some kind of supermarket that had like a similar solution. I was like,
sure, it was not as great anyway.
It wasn't. I know it,
but they still exist though. So
I mean that.
No, but it's quite common now to.
But I think it's more like for experience purposes. Yeah. That's at least how I felt it. So yeah, but same was for me. I wasn't sure. Like, are they growing it here, or is it just like looking cool?
And that was a big, like, for example, it was a big work for Infarm, which was that the way you display the plant inside and had to tell a clear story that when you were looking at it, and it was really like defining the operational work. I mean, because the operational workflow was tied to it.
Yep.
So the way we designed the operational flow of operating those farms, like where do I harvest, where do I feed the thing, and so on, we made it in a way that when you look at it, you see the plant from small, mid, large, and so on. So you could understand that, okay, that's
something's happening here.
Something's happening, and then it's all there. So visually, it had like a clear link on that. And that's something that we worked actually quite a lot to find a way which was at the same time efficient for the product and also built a strong visual storytelling. So then you would understand that, okay, this is how it's happening.
Yeah. Going back to Dryad, and because you mentioned the different user groups and where they are in terms of understanding a solution that has not been there yet. How does, design UX, I suppose you're working from your desk most of the time. Are you also out there, because it's a live thing, it's not a software platform, it's a live thing that's
tomorrow out there? I'm in Ebers, if you want to find me, tomorrow I'm in Eberswalder Forest, actually. Yeah. We are, like, Dryad is the, we are in the final of a international contest called X Prize, which is a contest to basically to develop a system to autonomously identify and extinguish a fire within 12 minutes. And so we developed since actually now a few years a system like you got our sensors. We have a set of drones that we created, one observation drone and one suppression drone with like a water containment. Yeah. And we are preparing for the final, which will be in Alaska in June. There, where we have to, within a small diameter of 40 kilometers by 40 kilometers.
So it's like tested under real life conditions.
We passed already. Since the final, we have a system which works. Yeah. Now it's about making it work for such a large area. Yeah. So and I'm always very, very often
out there, and that's cool. I really like that. How does that influence your work, your view on design, on UX, or in general your work at Dryad?
For me, it's extremely. Being in the field is extremely important, and that comes from the beginning, as in the healthcare side. Like,
you've been in the operation rooms there as well.
The type of, I've been used to like blue sky types of project where Johnson & Johnson will come like, what's up with like liver cancer in China. So I would spend literally like hours filming in surgery rooms and following, and discussing with patient and so on. Like a lot of my work is there, and that influenced like greatly than how you design the product. So the design does not happens behind the desk. It happens like out there. That the desk is there to put the ideas together and to put the intent and the concept and to build that.
I really like that that view. One last question. If you take a look at design, product design, the next 10 years potentially, like what do you hope designers get better at? Like what's your wish or your vision of, okay, that's how design or designers gonna change in the next couple of years?
I think the job of designers is changing or will change is changing to what I hope is for the better, in a way that I feel that in the last years, as I was saying at the beginning of our conversation, design moved to be, and design, especially like UX and digital, like to be more and more productified in itself and being like limited to, you know, what they call like the craft and then producing and so on, basically reapplying patterns together. And I'm kind of glad that this gets more and more, you know, like automated and improved and so on. So then designers can also go back to
the bigger picture,
to the original role, which is, you know, identifying problems, opportunities, and then bringing, you know, solutions there. If all of that allows me to spend, more time in forests, more time with users, more time talking with engineers, more time talking with fire agency and all of that, and trying to ask the right questions. And I think that designers is someone like this who need to ask the right question is what I hope for my job. And so now realistically, how I will see it is that I see design and product management, you know, merging even further than there is now. I feel that the last, you know, from what I was seeing the last years, all that customer centricity and customer needs was like, okay, well, the product management is going to take care of all of that research and so on, and design will take care of the execution and the craft and so on. I think that this is somehow a mistake in the way that it grew. I mean, how it evolved. I think no, that's we should own like the problem and user space to be able to bring the right, like the most optimal solution. So I have the hope that these start to remerge again. That designers become much more like business oriented also, and business savvy in the way that they would think of the problem. But the role of a designer at the end is, yes, to be able to, around the same table, you can talk to an engineer, an expert, an artist, like a business professional and so on, but you can talk through the same language and understand then their problem, their need, and then you can work as a catalyst to bring then, you know, solutions for them and to develop it with them. That's how I like to think of the work.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your insights, for the chat, for your time, and thanks also for you listeners for tuning in for this episode. Thanks a lot, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.